Breezing Through, and I'm Emily. So, welcome back. You might remember like a month ago when I started on my son's room. So, he lives on the third floor of our house. It is technically a bedroom. When we bought the house, it's a whole other story that I talked about in that video. And he has this huge space that is one bedroom with 12-foot ceilings. And I'm going to create this space into something that can be both a guest room and a playroom and his bedroom. So originally, the next step in this, I was going to work on the closet. I got the dressers into the closet, got that all organized. The next step was the Murphy bed. I was super excited about this. I got the plans. I got the parts from Create a Bed to create this Murphy bed, and I was reading all the directions. And then my son started climbing out of his crib. And not just like climbing out of his crib. Our daughter climbed out of her crib and she would fall and hurt herself, which was not great, but she didn't do it very often because it hurt. Well, my 2.5-year-old is the size of a 5-year-old, honestly, and has the strength of a 4 or 5-year-old. He can open car doors. He can open those big, heavy doors like at restaurants. So he can very, very easily climb out of his bed silently, mind you, which is not great. And like I said, this is a big open space. There is a bathroom, there's a closet that has a water heater in it, and then there's stairs down to his door. Get ready for a great story. So one day, this has happened like 3 or 4 times. And we've always caught him as he's come down the stairs. Like he's always cried, he's been fussy, was never a big deal. Well, one morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, we get up to get our daughter up for school and out the door. And I look at the monitor and he's not in his bed. Okay, well, where is he? So I go out, is he somewhere in his room? I go out of our room and the door to his room is open. Well, we shut his door at night. So he's not in his room. And then I walk by our daughter's room and her door is open. Well, we shut her door at night. So my husband goes upstairs to look for him and I go downstairs. We already have chain locks on all of our doors because our daughter, who is autistic, when we first moved into this house, would elope. And so we chain locked all the doors to make sure that she couldn't get out without supervision. So luckily all the doors were chained. That wasn't a problem. But we come downstairs and I can't find him. My husband can't find him upstairs. I'm frantically looking around and I find him butt up, face down, burrowed into the couch. So sometime in the night he had gotten up and had gone downstairs and checked in on his sister and then gone downstairs and fell asleep on the couch. Not great. And honestly, he can just lift himself up and out of his bed silently. He's like a ninja. Like it's just silent. So obviously I don't want him doing this on a regular basis because I don't need him building muscle. Like that takes a lot of core strength and a lot of upper body strength. I don't need him doing that regularly. And side note, we have put a lock on his door, on the outside of his door, so he can't get out without one of us, which is nice. So we haven't had that issue since. But so I had to pivot. I couldn't do the Murphy bed first thing anymore. I had to switch and do his bed because part of this whole redo is his side of the room is going to have his bed, a climbing wall with a slide, a second story like play area, and then like a little loft area, and then underneath there'll be a reading nook, and again his bed. And that was going to happen in phases anyway, so I decided let's just get started on his bed. So I'm going to show you his bed, the process of creating the entire space, because I kind of had to do that in order to figure out where his bed was going to go, along with figuring out paint colors for everything, because again, everything had to kind of come together really fast to make sure I could get his bed done so it would all be cohesive for when everything's finished. So let's get started. This is not a really long project. It took me about a week broken up because that's how I can get things done. But didn't take very long. Got him bedding, got him a mattress. I think he loves it. And I'll let you know how it goes. I'll keep you updated on that. So let's get started. So as a reminder, this is where we're starting from. Obviously, this was before I redid the closet and added the dressers in here. But this is my son's room. There's a closet, the bathroom, and then there's this huge open space. On the left is where I'm going to put the Murphy bed. And right here, where this guest bed is is where my son's bed is going. And just to give you a little example here of how quickly he can scale that bed, it's like nothing. And it's just a core workout for him. He uses his core muscles, uses that upper body strength. I really don't need a bodybuilder for a toddler. So it's time to make him a brand new bed. And if you've been around long enough, you know that I'm not just going to get him any old bed. This has to be something awesome. So obviously the first thing that we had to do was move the guest bed. And the problem is there is a ton of stuff stored under here because we don't have a lot of storage in our house. Luckily, I'd already gone through a lot of this stuff already. And the nice thing about this bed frame is that it actually folds up really nicely. So I will be donating this to one of our local free stores because it can either be 2 twin beds or it can be a queen. And that is just something that I think someone else can definitely use. My husband does have a few instruments that he is storing under here that we're gonna have to figure out what we're doing with because he doesn't use them frequently. It took me a minute to remember how to take down the bed frame, but once I did, I got it. I did get very nervous because as I was looking at the baseboard where the bed's gonna go, I noticed that there seemed to be some water damage there, and I was getting really nervous that there was mold under there. Luckily, I pulled the baseboard away and there was not in fact any mold there, just seems to be some surface level water damage. But there is something going on around the casing of this door outside to our deck, so I'm going to have to deal with that, but not right now. So I do want to show you, I came up with this design for my son's bed. These are not the right colors. I will show you the colors in a minute. This is the general idea. The bottom left where the teal color is, that's where his bed's going to go. So first off, I did the frame for the mattress to sit on. And if you have been around for a while, you know that when I built my daughter's house bed, the internet pretty much lost its mind when I did not add obvious slats for her bed. Her mattress does lift up off the ground because of how the bed is built, but this time I'm just going to add the slats. That way the internet can calm down. But it's for my own peace of mind as well. And then I built a frame for the top of the bed. If you go back and look at that picture again, you will see that this is the bottom of this play structure. And there's going to be a second story and even a third story that is right above the bed. So this has to be pretty sturdy and it's going to have to hold a lot. So I had to make sure that was with 2x4s. And if you put the 2x4s on their sides, they actually hold more weight. Then it was time to install the frames. I've already removed one baseboard, but I'm going to remove some more baseboard. The internet's going to lose their ever-loving mind because I hate it when I remove baseboards in my own home to add built-in features. But I'm removing the baseboards, so take a breath. It's going to be okay. Since this bed play structure area is going to span the entire width of this wall, I am only taking out a little bit of the baseboard because the bed is being installed on the far left side and nothing else is being installed until the far right side in the corner. So I don't need to take out all the baseboard here. Then it was time to install the frame. I did the side first and screwed that into the studs, made sure that it was nice and secure, and then assembled the other side because once the base for the mattress is in, I want to be able to put the second side up on the end of the bed. I then put the base for the mattress in, and yet again, I screwed this into the studs, so it is not going anywhere. Just wait for the end. You're going to see the shake test. I then secured the end piece to the bottom of the frame as well as the wall, made sure everything was level and it was all good to go. And then it was time to install the top, which is going to be the base of the floor for the second story. This is going to be held up by screwing it into the studs in the wall as well as the sides of this frame. I used this other 2x4 that is going to be a support piece on the long side of the bed as an extra arm to try and secure this because I was doing this by myself with my toddler hanging out around me. And it took a little maneuvering, but I made it work. And I have to say, I did not drop a 2x4 on my head, which I did do when I was building my daughter's bed. So progress. Once I got that in, I then hung from it and swung. As you can see, it's not going anywhere. Then it was time for the plywood panels for the outside of the bed. Yes, this is basically like a box that has an opening in it, but I wanted to add some holes to it so that there could be some airflow in there. I just like the circle shape because also I felt like it was harder to grip. So it'll be harder for my son to climb out using these holes. These are going to be higher up. The goal is for this to be hard for him to climb, which is really why I went with the circles. So once I'd drawn the circles, I then used my drill to drill place for my jigsaw to go into, and then I cut out each hole. No, they are not perfectly round. Was I going for perfectly round? Yes. Can I do a perfectly round circle with my jigsaw? Not at the moment. Practice makes perfect. So we're just going to go with they're supposed to look like this. If you haven't caught on yet, there are 2 separate panels, one for the end of the bed and one for the side. The longer panel does not go the entire length of the bed because there is enough space for an opening. Once I had those cut and sanded, I then primed them. When I was working on a few projects at my parents' house, there was also a guy who was doing some cabinetry work there. And while I pride myself on the work I do, I am nowhere near the experience that this guy is at. And he has the most incredible finishes on his cabinets. And so I asked him, I said, hey, how do you get that nice of a finish? And he knew what I was doing and he knew the kind of stuff that I do. And so he talked to me about it. And his best advice was to do 2 coats of a high end primer and then 2 coats of paint and then whatever top coat you're going to use, if you're going to use one, 2 coats of that. And I have lived by that. And I did it with my daughter's bookshelves. I did it with her desk and her cubbies. And I'm doing it on my son's bed. I'm not doing a top coat on his bed because I don't feel like he needs it, but I am doing the 2 coats of primer and 2 coats of paint on the outside of the panels. For the inside of the bed, a lot of this isn't going to show because it's going to be covered by the panels, but the parts that are showing on the inside, I am going to paint. I didn't do that for all of my daughter's bed and I regret that. So I'm going to take that lesson and grow from it and paint all the places that I wanted painted. So I'm priming all of the wood here. I am also going to be painting the walls the same color as the outside of the panels, but since the walls are gray and I'm painting over with a really nice paint, I don't feel like I need to prime the walls as well. Yes, I am painting in between all the 2x4s because I want it to look good. I want him to look up there and for everything to be cohesive. Yes, I will very likely come back in here once the flooring is on top of his bed and paint between the 2x4s, but I haven't gotten to that point yet because I haven't decided how I'm doing that yet. Once everything was primed, it was time to paint. So I am using the color Coastal Paradise by Benjamin Moore, and I am using their Regal Select line, mostly because this paint is so nice that you really can apply it with just one coat. So for the insides of the panels, I'm just doing 1 coat, and I'm going to do the same thing on the bed. The outside of the panels are going to get 2 coats. If they need them, we will see. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to show you a sneak peek of the color palette that I decided on for the rest of this space, minus the Murphy bed. I haven't decided what that color is going to be yet because it's going to be very different from the rest of the room, or it's just going to have to blend in. So like I said, I then painted 1 coat on the inside of the bed, so all the same places that I primed and the walls, so it's all the same color. And then I attached the panels to the bed and did 1 more coat of paint while they were on there. We got him a twin size mattress from Amazon, and then for his bedding, we got Betty's because we love Betty's and we have them on a lot of the beds in our house. This is one of the kids line and I absolutely love it. It's perfect for him. I also got a mattress protector and sheet suspenders because they definitely help with keeping the Betty's on nice and snug. And there we go. There's his bed. It's kind of odd all by itself over there in the corner. But like I said, there's a whole plan for this. This was not originally in the plan to do this one first, but this is where we are. I am starting to lean towards doing the reading nook on the other side of the room next, and then the bridge in between. You'll have to let me know what you think. Okay, so there we go. Were you expecting that color? I'm not sure anybody was expecting that color. And then the sheets, like I said, are from Betty's. They're the same sheets we have for our daughter's room, same sheets we have for our guest bed. Absolutely love them. They're great for these smaller spaces, for areas where it's hard to tuck sheets in. They just zip on and off. Super easy. Love them. I will have all the details for that linked on the blog post for this. You can also find them linked in my bio, linked in the caption. It'll all be there. But yeah, so that's the color. I'm really excited about the color scheme in general. I originally was going to go darker, like more like darker colors. But once I started seeing them, like the actual paint samples, I thought that it would be too dark up in his room. And so I wanted things to be a little bit brighter. So that's why I kind of went with that teal. I'm pretty excited about it. I can't wait to get started on the rest of his room. And I'm kind of going back and forth between should I do more of his space or should I do the Murphy bed? And I go back and forth. I think I might do more of his space first because it's already in my head. I'm already working on that and we don't have anybody planning on coming to visit us anytime soon. So I'm not in a time crunch for the Murphy bed. So if you liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe and make sure to comment if you have any ideas for this space. Like I said, I gave you those images of what it's going to look like. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and be sure to check in next week for another video. Thanks for watching.